The plasma bolt missed my head by inches. I dove behind the crystalline outcrop as 3 more shots shattered the rock above me, showering violet fragments across my helmet. My oxygen readout blinked red. 14 minutes. The mining expedition to Kepler. 442B was supposed to be routine. Survey the deposits, mark coordinates, return to the ship. Nobody mentioned the part where I'd stumble into a war zone. "Humans, stay down!" The voice crackled through my emergency channel, sharp and commanding despite the translator's mechanical overlay. I risked a glance. 20 meters away, a figure in ornate armor fought with movements too fast to follow. She wielded twin energy blades that hummed with lethal grace, cutting through her attackers like they were paper. 4 bodies already lay motionless around her, but more were coming. At least a dozen armored soldiers emerged from the canyon's far side, weapons raised. She was outnumbered. Badly. The logical part of my brain screamed to run. Head for the shuttle. Get off this rock. Survive. But I'd spent 8 years in Mars colony security before taking this mining contract. Some instincts don't die. I checked my equipment belt. 1 mining charge. A cutting laser rated for rock, not combat. Emergency flare gun. Terrible odds. I armed the mining charge, set the timer for 3 seconds, and threw it high over the outcrop toward the advancing soldiers. The explosion sent them scattering. In that moment of chaos, I fired the flare gun directly into the visor of the nearest attacker. He screamed, clawing at his face. "What are you doing?" the woman shouted. "Helping!" I fired my cutting laser at another soldier's weapon, melting the barrel. Not elegant, but effective. She moved like lightning, her blades finding 2 more targets while they were distracted, but a blast from behind caught her shoulders, spinning her around. She stumbled. One of the soldiers raised his weapon point-blank range. I tackled him. We hit the ground hard. My ribs screamed. His fist caught my jaw, snapping my head back. But I'd trained in Mars gravity my whole adult life. Out here, I was stronger. I grabbed a rock and brought it down on his helmet until the composite cracked. Something sharp pressed against my neck. "Don't move, human." A soldier stood over me, his weapon's heat singing my skin through the suit. The woman's blade emerged through his chest. She withdrew it smoothly, and he collapsed. Her armor was scorched, one shoulder piece hanging loose, but her eyes, violet with vertical pupils, remained utterly focused. She offered her free hand. I took it. She pulled me up with surprising strength. "You are injured," she stated, looking at my side. I glanced down. Blood spread across my suit's white fabric. When had that happened? The adrenaline must have masked it. "You? I will endure." She touched a device on her wrist, but my ship is destroyed. Those were Corvesh assassins. They will send more. My oxygen display read 11 minutes. My shuttle is 2 kilometers north. Can you walk? She nodded once, then swayed. I caught her before she fell. Okay, new plan. Lean on me. We moved through the canyon as fast as we could manage. Her limping, me bleeding, both of us glancing back every few seconds. The alien landscape stretched endlessly, all purple stone and green sky, beautiful and utterly hostile. "Why did you help me?" she asked suddenly. "Why wouldn't I? I am a stranger. My people are not known to yours. You risked your life for no tactical advantage. You needed help. That's enough. What is your name?" "Marcus Webb, mining contractor, formerly Mars Colony Security." "You?" "I am Linsara Vel Tharn, second daughter of the Eternal Throne, crown princess of the Velthiri Imperium. Your royalty? Does this change your calculation? Makes me wish I'd brought a better first aid kit. Something that might have been a laugh escaped her lips, then turned into a cough. Blood darker than human blood, almost black, stained her chin. 7 minutes of oxygen. The shuttle appeared over the next rise, sitting exactly where I'd left it. I'd never been so happy to see battered mining equipment in my life. "Almost there, Your Highness." "Linsara, if you have bled for me, we are beyond titles." I helped her up the ramp. The airlock cycled with agonizing slowness. My vision started to blur. 5 minutes. 4. The inner door opened. I practically fell inside, pulling her with me. The shuttle's atmosphere systems kicked in. I ripped off my helmet, gasping, and helped Linsara remove her helmet. Her features were humanoid but refined, with high cheekbones and skin that shimmered faintly iridescent. Even injured and exhausted, she carried herself with unmistakable dignity. "Medical supplies? There." I pointed to the locker. She shook her head. "You first. Your wound is severe." I've had worse. Then you have had a violent life, Marcus Webb. I pulled out the med kit and set it between us. We worked in practice silence. Her people's medicine apparently wasn't so different from ours. I sealed her shoulder wound with surgical foam. She wrapped my ribs with efficient precision. The Corvesh will track us, she said quietly. Then we'd better move. The shuttle lifted smoothly. As we climbed through Kepler 442b's atmosphere, I saw them. 3 ships breaking through the cloud layer below, sleek and deadly. They're fast, I muttered. Very. But this system has a debris field near the third moon. If you can reach it before they achieve weapons lock. I know what you're thinking, that's insane. Do you have a better option? I didn't. I pushed the throttle forward and aimed for the moon. The first shot rocked the shuttle. Alarm screamed. A second shot grazed our port side, melting hull plating. The debris field loomed ahead, thousands of spinning rocks, each one capable of crushing us. Hold on! Space became a 3-dimensional maze of death. I twisted the shuttle through gaps that shouldn't have existed, feeling every impact as smaller debris pinged off our hull. Behind us, the Corvesh ships followed, but they were larger, less maneuverable. One of them clipped an asteroid. The explosion lit up my rear cameras. 2 left, Linsara said calmly, though her hands gripped the seat arms. I spotted a gap between 2 massive rotating rocks. Maybe wide enough. Maybe not. I went for it. The shuttle scraped through with centimeters to spare. 1 Corvesh ship tried to follow. It didn't make it. The last ship broke off, apparently deciding we weren't worth the risk. I set course for deep space, hands shaking on the controls. That was exceptional piloting, Linsara said. That was exceptional luck. Perhaps. But you have now saved my life twice in one day. She stood carefully, wincing, and moved beside my chair. Marcus Webb, I must tell you something important about my people's customs. Can it wait? I need to call my company, report what happened. It cannot wait. Her voice carried absolute certainty. Among the Velthiri, when one saves the life of royalty through personal sacrifice and bloodshed, a debt is created. A sacred debt, divinity. Look, you don't owe me anything. We do not understand. The debt is formalized through a ritual binding. You shed blood for me. I shed blood. Our lives mixed on that battlefield. She placed her hand over her heart. By the ancient laws of my people, by the covenant of blood and honor, we are now considered bonded. Bonded? Married, in your language? I'm sorry, what? We are married, Marcus Webb. And now I must bring you before my mother, the Empress, to formalize what has already begun. I stared at her, at those serious violet eyes, and realized my life had just become infinitely more complicated. Your mother. The Empress. Of an entire alien empire. Yes. I looked out at the endless stars, then back at the alien princess standing in my mining shuttle, covered in blood and burns, absolutely serious. This, I said slowly, is going to be one hell of a report. The Velthiri Imperial cruiser filled my view screen like a floating city of light and metal. It dwarfed every human ship I'd ever seen, its elegant spires and flowing architecture somehow both beautiful and intimidating. Linsara had used my shuttle's communication system to send an encrypted message hours ago. The response had been immediate. Coordinates, docking codes, and what sounded like multiple voices shouting in her language. Your people sound upset, I observed. 14 assassination attempts in the past cycle. My disappearance for 6 hours. Yes, they are upset. She adjusted her armor, trying to restore some dignity to the scorched and broken pieces. But they will be more upset when they learn what has transpired between us. We could just not tell them. She looked at me like I'd suggested we breathe vacuum. The blood bond is sacred. To hide it would be the gravest dishonor. Right, sacred. Of course. I guided the shuttle toward the indicated docking bay. Any advice for meeting your mother? Should I bow? Salute? Not make eye contact? Be honest. Be yourself. She values courage and directness. Great. What does she think of humans? She has never met one. Even better. Through the viewport I saw them waiting. A full honor guard of 20 warriors in armor that made Linsara's look plain. They stood in perfect formation, weapons held in ceremonial position. Behind them, officials in elaborate robes clustered together, their expressions unreadable. And at the center on a raised platform sat the Empress. Even from here, her presence was unmistakable. She wore robes of deep blue that seemed to absorb light, with a crown of crystalline spires that floated above her head through some technology I couldn't fathom. Her face could have been Lincera's in 30 years. Beautiful, regal, and absolutely terrifying. She looks displeased, I said.
She's always displeased.
It is her resting state. Lincera stood. Come, there is no value in delay. The airlock opened. We stepped out together. The temperature of the room seemed to drop. Every eye fixed on us. On me specifically. I'd cleaned the blood off my suit as best I could, but I still looked like I'd been in a fight. Which I had. Next to Lincera's gleaming armor and noble bearing, I felt like a janitor crashing a state dinner. The captain of the guard, a scarred warrior with 3 service ribbons on his chest, stepped forward. His hand rested on his weapon. Identify yourself, human. Marcus Webb, mining contractor. He saved my life. Lincera's voice cut through the bay like a blade. Twice, at great risk to himself. The captain's eyes narrowed. And the damage to your armor? Your injuries? Kravesh assassins. 16 of them. Marcus eliminated 4 personally despite having no combat equipment. Murmurs rippled through the assembled crowd. The captain looked at me with new assessment, but his hand didn't leave his weapon. Bring them forward, the Empress commanded. Her voice resonated with authority that made my spine straighten involuntarily. We walked through the honor guard. Their eyes tracked every movement. I tried to project confidence I didn't feel. We stopped before the platform. Lincera placed her fist over her heart and bowed her head. I copied the gesture, hoping I wasn't accidentally declaring war or insulting someone's ancestors. The Empress studied us in silence. Her eyes, the same violet as Lincera's but harder, colder, moved from her daughter to me and back again. Lincera, do you know what you have put us through? The words were soft, which somehow made them more devastating. 6 hours without word. Your escort destroyed.
We feared you dead.
The attack was coordinated. They destroyed my ship's communication array in the first strike. And you survived through? The Empress gestured at me. Marcus Webb's intervention. He is the reason I stand before you. A human. With mining equipment. The Empress's tone suggested she was reevaluating the competence of the entire universe. How did you accomplish this, Marcus Webb? But Lincera had said, to be honest, I saw someone who needed help. I helped. That's all. That's all. The Empress repeated the words like she was tasting something foreign. You risked your life for a stranger because she needed help. Yes, Your Majesty. Do humans often make such illogical decisions? The good ones do. Silence. I might have just ended diplomatic relations between our species before they'd started. Then something shifted in the Empress's expression. Not a smile, nothing so obvious, but a fractional softening around her eyes. You are either very brave or very foolish. Probably both, Your Majesty. Mother, Lincera said quietly. There is something you must know. Something that cannot be delayed. The Empress's attention sharpened. Speak. Marcus and I fought together. We both bled in combat. Our blood mixed on the battlefield. He sacrificed himself for my survival, and I for his. Lincera's voice remained steady, formal. By the covenant of blood and honor, we are bonded. The bay erupted. Officials shouted. The honor guard shifted, weapons rising slightly. The captain took a step forward, his face darkening. Silence! The Empress's command cracked like thunder. Instant quiet. The Empress stood slowly, descending from her platform. She moved with the same lethal grace as her daughter, and I understood suddenly where Lincera had learned it. She approached us, and I forced myself not to step back. She examined Lincera first, touching the sealed wound on her shoulder. Then she turned to me. Her eyes could have cut diamond. Show me your wound. I hesitated, then unsealed the top of my suit. The medical wrap covered my ribs, but blood had seeped through in places. The Empress looked at the injury for a long moment. Who struck first to aid the other? He was safe. I was engaged in combat. He chose to enter the battle. And when did blood mix? Both fell. Both were injured. Their blood fell on my armor as I struck down the soldier who threatened Marcus. The Empress's expression was unreadable. And you, Marcus Webb, did you know of our customs when you acted? I didn't even know Lincera was royalty until after us. So you saved her expecting nothing. No reward. No political advantage. No glory. I expected to maybe not die on an alien planet. That was the extent of my plan. Leave us. Except the first guard. Only the captain remained, standing at attention 10 meters away. The Empress began to pace, her robes flowing behind her. The covenant of blood and honor is our oldest law, older than my dynasty. Older than our empire. It exists because there was a time when our people were scattered, warring, dying. A warrior who would bleed for another, who would sacrifice without hesitation. This was the foundation of trust we built everything upon. She stopped, facing us. But it was written for our people, not for aliens we barely know exist. The law makes no distinction, Linzara said quietly. The law did not anticipate this situation. The law is absolute. You taught me this, Mother. The Empress's jaw tightened. For several heartbeats, she said nothing. When she spoke again, her voice carried the weight of ages. If I acknowledge this bond, you understand what it means? Marcus Webb becomes part of our royal family. He would have rights, responsibilities, access to state secrets. He would be a target for every enemy we have made in 10,000 years of rule. I understand, Linsara said. And you, human, do you understand? Your life as you knew it ends here. You would be bound to our empire, to our court, to our endless political games. You would never again be anonymous. Never again safe. I looked at Linsara. Her face remained composed, but I saw the tension in her shoulders, the way her hands were clasped too tightly. I thought about my life, the mining job I'd taken to escape the memories of Mars Colony, the empty apartment waiting on Europa Station, the silence I'd wrapped around myself for 3 years since the dome breach that killed my security team. I thought about the moment on Kepler, 442b, when I could have run, should have run, but saw someone fighting alone against impossible odds and couldn't walk away. Maybe I was tired of walking away. I understand, Your Majesty, I said. But I have a question. The Empress raised an eyebrow. Speak. Is Linsara okay with this? Because we've been talking about laws and customs and political implications, but nobody's asked her what she wants. She blinked, surprise crossing her features for the first time. That is not how these decisions are typically made. Maybe it should be, I said. If we're going to be married, actually married, not just legally bonded, I'd like to know if you're all right with being tied to a random human who barely knows which fork to use at a fancy dinner. We do not use forks, Linsara said. See, I'm already failing. Almost a smile. You saved my life, Marcus Webb. You fought beside me. You fly like a demon through debris fields, and when others would have abandoned an injured stranger, you carried me to safety. She met my eyes directly. I have known nobles who possessed none of your courage or honor. If I must be bonded by ancient law, I am content it is to you. That's the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me. Give me time. I am told humans value elaborate courtship rituals. Enough, the Empress said, but there was something softer in her voice now. I will not pretend to like this situation. My daughter bonded to an unknown human from a barely spacefaring species creates complications that will take years to navigate. She looked at me. But the law is absolute, and honor demands we uphold it. Marcus Webb, by the authority of the Eternal Throne, I acknowledge your blood bond to Linsara Veltarn. You are now Prince Consort of the Velthiri Imperium. However, the Empress continued, this bond must be formalized. There are ceremonies, tests of worthiness, presentations to the High Council. You will be scrutinized by every faction in our empire. Many will try to use you. Others will try to eliminate you. Some will simply find you an entertaining curiosity to be displayed. Sounds like a typical Tuesday. The Empress studied me. You make jests when you are nervous. Joking has a better success rate. You will need that humor in the days ahead. She turned to Linsara. Take him to the guest quarters. Get medical treatment for those injuries. Tomorrow, the formal proceedings begin. She paused. And, daughter, I am glad you live. Thank you, Mother. The Empress swept from the bay, the captain following. Suddenly, Linsara and I were alone in the massive space. Guest quarters? I asked. Come. You need proper medical care. She started walking, and I followed. And food. Do you have dietary restrictions? Nothing poisonous would be nice. Our biologies are compatible enough. Though you may find some textures unusual, we walked through corridors that seemed carved from light itself, past windows showing the vast darkness of space. Crew members stopped and stared as we passed. News traveled fast, apparently. The quarters Linsara led me to were larger than my apartment on Europa Station. Windows covered one wall, showing a view of a nearby nebula. The furniture was elegant but functional. A medical station occupied one corner. "Sit," Linsara commanded, gesturing to a chair by the medical station. "I'm fine. You are bleeding through your bandages." "Sit." She worked efficiently, removing my makeshift dressing and applying something that tingled and went numb at the same time. The pain faded almost immediately. "That's amazing," I said. "Basic military medical technology. Your wound will heal completely in 3 days." She finished sealing the injury with what looked like liquid metal that hardened into a flexible covering. "There. Now you will not die from infection before the formal ceremonies." Comforting. She moved to the window, staring out at the stars. In the soft light, with her armor finally removed, she looked younger, more vulnerable. "Are you afraid?" she asked quietly. "Terrified." "You?" "Yes." She turned to face me. "I have trained all my life for duty, for leadership, for combat, but I never expected this. And I never expected to bring a husband before my mother, who is also a complete stranger."
We could get to know each other. Start there.
Forget the titles and ceremonies for a minute. How? Well, normally I'd suggest coffee, but I'm guessing you don't drink coffee. What is coffee? A beverage that keeps humans functional. You're missing out. I leaned back carefully, mindful of my ribs. "Ask me anything. Let's start simple. Why did you leave your security position on Mars Colony?" "There was an accident. Dome breach. I was leading a patrol. Got 8 people killed because I made the wrong call." The words came easier than I expected. Maybe because she was a stranger. Or maybe because she'd already seen me at my worst. Took this mining job to get away from anything that mattered. Turned out I couldn't even do that right. "You blame yourself for their deaths. I was in charge. And you were in a disaster situation where all choices carry risk." Her voice was matter-of-fact, not sympathetic. Somehow that made it better. "I have commanded soldiers. I have watched them die. The weight never lessens. But you dishonor their memory if you believe your life should end with theirs." I looked at her. Really looked. "You've lost people too." "Killed protecting me from the 7th assassination attempt. I still see his face when I close my eyes." She sat across from me. "So yes, Marcus Webb, I understand guilt. And I understand the instinct to isolate yourself from anything that might cause such pain again. Yet here we are, bonded by ancient law to someone we just met. Fate has a peculiar sense of humor." If fate is real, it's definitely laughing at me right now. The door opened and 3 servants entered carrying trays of food. They bowed to Linsara, set the trays on a table, and left without a word. "Eat," Linsara said. "You will need strength for tomorrow." The food was alien but recognizable. Proteins, vegetables, something grain-like. I tried a piece of the purple meat and found it surprisingly good. "Not bad," I said. "High praise from a human. I'll write you a full review later." We ate in companionable silence. Outside the window, the nebula swirled in shades of blue and violet. Somewhere out there was Earth, Europa Station, my old life. It felt impossibly distant. "What happens tomorrow?" I asked finally. "The formal presentation to the High Council. They will question you, test you, attempt to determine if you are worthy of the bond, or if this is some elaborate scheme. A scheme involving getting stabbed and nearly running out of oxygen. Brilliant plan. They are politicians. They see schemes everywhere." She set down her eating implement, definitely not a fork. "Then there are the ritual challenges. 3 trials to prove your worth. Combat, wisdom, and sacrifice. I'm a security guard who got lucky. Your warriors will destroy me. The trials are not designed to be unbeatable. They test character, not merely skill." She paused. "And you have already proven your combat instinct. You fought 16 Corvash assassins with mining equipment."
"I fought 4.
"You handled the rest. You created opportunities. You adapted. You survived." She met my eyes. "Do not diminish what you did, Marcus. Many trained warriors would have died in that situation." A comfortable silence settled. I found myself studying her features, the way her iridescent skin caught the light, the sharp intelligence in her violet eyes, the small scar on her chin that spoke of old battles. "Can I ask you something?" I said. "If the bond hadn't happened, if the blood hadn't mixed, would you have still brought me here to thank me?" "I would have offered you a reward. Wealth. Technology. Perhaps a position if you desired it.
But bring you to the Imperial cruiser? Introduce you to my mother?
No. So we're only having this conversation because of ancient laws. We're having this conversation because you made choices that aligned with those laws. Because when you saw someone in danger, you acted. Because you possess honor without knowing our word for it. She leaned forward slightly. The bond may be law, Marcus, but the man who created that bond, that was your choice. Your character. Do you understand the distinction? I did, and it scared me how much her words meant. A second chime. The captain of the guard entered without waiting for permission. His expression was grim. Princess, we have intercepted communication from Corvesh Command. They know Marcus Webb is aboard. They are demanding his surrender for trial as a war criminal.
On what grounds?
Linsara's voice went cold. The 4 soldiers he killed. The Corvesh claim he murdered unarmed prisoners. They were armed assassins attempting to kill me. The Corvesh are not interested in truth. They see an opportunity to create an incident. The captain looked at me. They have allies in our council who would happily surrender a human to avoid conflict. Marcus is under my protection. Under Imperial protection. That is law. The Empress has scheduled an emergency council session for dawn. You should both rest. The captain's expression softened fractionally when he looked at me. You fought well, human. For what it is worth. Linsara stood, pacing. This is politics at its ugliest. The Corvesh care nothing for those soldiers, but they know a human prince consort creates uncertainty in our empire. They will exploit that. Then maybe I should... No. She spun to face me. You will not offer to leave. You will not offer to surrender yourself. We are bonded, and I will not allow you to be used as a pawn in their games. I don't want to start a war. There has been a war between Velthiri and Corvesh for 3 centuries. You did not start it. You merely gave them a new battlefield. She crossed to me, placed her hand on my shoulder. Tomorrow, at the council, you must show them what I saw on Kepler 442b. Show them the human who fought impossible odds and survived. Show them you are not a piece to be moved, but a warrior who stands his ground. I'm really not good at politics. Neither am I. But we will learn together. She pulled me to my feet. Now sleep. You will need all your strength. Where will you be? Preparing our defense. Gathering allies, making it very clear to anyone who will listen that you are mine to protect, and I do not yield what is mine. The possessiveness in her voice should have worried me. Instead, it was strangely reassuring. She left me alone in the vast quarters. I stood at the window, watching the stars, and wondered what the hell I'd gotten myself into. Somewhere out there, the Corvesh were plotting. Politicians were scheming. And I was just a human who'd made a split-second decision to help a stranger. But as I touched the hardened medical seal over my ribs, I remembered the feel of battle, the clarity of purpose, the rightness of standing beside someone who fought alone. Maybe Linsara was right. Maybe I'd been running from more than just memories. I slept poorly, waking every few hours to strange sounds and stranger dreams. Dawn came too quickly. The servants arrived first, carrying what I assumed was formal attire. The outfit was surprisingly comfortable. Dark fabric that adjusted to fit perfectly, with subtle armor plating hidden in the weave. They worked in silence, dressing me like I was a noble's doll. Linsara appeared as they finished. She wore ceremonial armor that gleamed like captured starlight, her hair bound in intricate braids woven with crystalline ornaments. She looked every inch the warrior princess. Ready? She asked. Not even slightly. Good. Overconfidence will get you killed in the council chamber. Word had spread. I was no longer just the human who'd helped the princess. I was the human who'd claimed blood bond with royalty, the human the Corvesh wanted dead. The council chamber was enormous. Curved tiers rose in a semicircle, filled with hundreds of officials representing different worlds and factions across the Velthiri Imperium. At the center sat the Empress on a throne that seemed carved from frozen light, and arrayed before her were 3 Corvesh diplomats. They were tall, reptilian, with scales that shifted between green and black. Their eyes were multifaceted like insects, and when they spoke, their voices hissed with barely contained aggression. We enter, Linsara whispered. We descended the central stairs. Every eye tracked our movement. The murmuring grew louder. We reached the center and bowed to the Empress. Marcus Webb, the Empress's voice carried through the chamber. You stand accused by the Corvesh Dominion of murdering their soldiers in violation of interstellar law. How do you answer? Time to show them what Linsara saw. I killed 4 soldiers in defense of Linsara Veltharn while she was under attack by 16 armed assassins. If the Corvesh consider that murder, then I am guilty. If they consider defending someone's life a crime, then I confess freely. And if they think I will apologize for saving the princess's life, they can wait until the stars grow cold. The lead Corvesh diplomat stepped forward, his scales darkening. Arrogant words from a primitive species. You admit to stopping your people from killing a member of the Velthiri royal family, I interrupted. If you want to call that a crime, go ahead. But let's be clear about what you're really angry about. Your assassination attempt failed. Saying, You dare? Saying, I dare quite a bit, apparently. Comes with the whole saving princesses thing. Linsara touched my arm, a warning. I'd pushed too far, but the Empress's expression was unreadable. The Corvesh bring evidence, she said. Present it. It showed the battlefield on Kepler 442b from a satellite feed. I watched myself throw the mining charge, saw the explosion, saw myself tackle the soldier. This human attacked unprovoked, the diplomat hissed. Your soldiers were executing an assassination attempt on a member of the imperial family, Linsara said coldly. The satellite footage shows them firing first. It shows them surrounding me. It shows Marcus entering combat to save my life after I was already wounded. The human is a foreign combatant entering the Velthiri internal matter. I am Velthiri, I said quietly. By the covenant of blood and honor, I am bonded to Princess Linsara. That makes me a member of this empire. And in this empire, we protect our own. The chamber went completely silent. The Empress leaned forward. You claim membership in our empire? I claim the right given by your oldest law. The blood was shed. The bond was made. If that makes me Velthiri, then I'm Velthiri, and I won't apologize for defending one of our own from attack. Slowly, deliberately, the Empress smiled. It was terrifying and beautiful at once. The human speaks truth. By our own laws, Marcus Webb is Velthiri. The Corvesh have no claim over him. She turned to the diplomats. You attempted to assassinate my daughter. You failed. This discussion is concluded. Dominion will not forget this insult. Good. Remember it well. Remember that we protect our people, even the newest among us. The Empress's voice dropped to a deadly whisper. And remember that if you attempt to harm any Velthiri citizen again, I will consider it an act of war. Are we understood? The Empress addressed the council. The formal bonding ceremony will proceed in 3 days. Marcus Webb will undergo the traditional trials. Prepare accordingly. She stood. This session is concluded. As the council dispersed, Linsara gripped my hand. That was either brilliant or suicidal. Can't it be both? With you, apparently it can. The captain approached. Well spoken, Prince Consort.
Though you made enemies today.
I had enemies before breakfast. At least now they're official. We left the chamber together. As we walked, I felt eyes on us. Some curious, some hostile, some calculating. But I also felt something else. Linsara's hand in mine. Steady. Whatever came next, at least I wouldn't face it alone. The trials began at dawn the next day. The combat arena was ancient, carved from dark stone that predated the empire itself. Thousands watched from tiered seating that rose into shadow. I stood at the center, wearing light armor that felt inadequate. Across from me, the champion of the Imperial Guard lowered into a fighting stance. He was twice my size, scarred from countless battles, and held a training blade that could still break bones. Begin, the Empress's voice echoed. He moved like liquid death. I barely dodged the first strike. The blade passed so close I felt the air pressure. I rolled, came up, tried to create distance. D. He was already there. His blade cracked against my ribs, not the injured side, thankfully. Pain exploded through my chest. I staggered back. The crowd murmured, disappointed. Of course. I remembered Mars Colony. The dome breach. The moment everything went wrong because I froze. I couldn't freeze now. The champion attacked again. This time I didn't dodge. I stepped inside his reach, too close for the blade to be effective. Surprised, he tried to adjust. I grabbed his arm, used his own momentum, and threw him. He hit the ground. The crowd gasped. But he was up instantly, and now he was angry. We traded blows. Him with skill and strength, me with desperation and muscle memory from years of security training. I landed a hit on his shoulder. He repaid it with a strike that sent my sword flying. I was unarmed. He raised his blade for the finishing blow. I didn't run. I stepped forward, into the strike, and caught his wrist. The blade stopped centimeters from my throat. We stood locked, strength against strength. "Yield," he growled. "No." I drove my knee into his stomach, twisted, and used leverage to flip him over my hip. He crashed down. I pinned him, one arm locked, my other hand at his throat. "Yield," I said. For a moment, nothing. Then he tapped the ground twice. "Victory to Marcus Webb," the judge announced. The champion rose, rubbing his shoulder. Then he smiled. "You fight dirty, human. I fight to win." "Good. That is how you stay alive." He offered his hand. I took it. The trial of wisdom came next. I sat in a chamber with 3 of the Empire's greatest scholars. They asked questions designed to have no right answer, philosophical traps and moral quandaries. "If you must choose between loyalty to your princess and the good of the Empire, which do you choose?" I'd find a way to make them the same thing. Then I'd figure out why they were in conflict and fix the actual problem instead of accepting a false choice. They consulted among themselves. If the Empress commanded you to perform an action you believed immoral, what would you do? If she couldn't convince me, I'd refuse and accept the consequences. That is treason. But following immoral orders isn't loyalty. It's cowardice dressed up nice. More consultation. Do you believe humans superior to Valtheri? Different, not superior. We all bleed the same when cut. We all die when abandoned. Species doesn't matter much when you're fighting side by side. They looked at each other. Finally, the eldest scholar nodded. Yu speaks with his own voice, not rehearsed, not political. This is wisdom of a kind, the wisdom to see clearly and speak truth. He turned to me. "You pass, Marcus Webb." They led me to a private chamber. The Empress waited there, alone. "Sit," she commanded. I sat. She paced for a moment, then turned to face me. "This trial is simple. I offer you a choice. You may leave now. I will provide you with wealth beyond imagining. Technology, a ship, safe passage anywhere you wish to go. Your record will be cleared. The Corvesh will be told the bond was dissolved. You will be free." She paused. "Or you may stay. But if you stay, you sacrifice your old life completely. You can never return to human space as you were. You will be forever marked as either too alien for humans, too human for Valtheri. You will be a target for assassination, political manipulation, and constant scrutiny. Your choices will be constrained by duty and protocol. Your life will no longer be your own." She sat across from me. "I ask you now, Marcus Webb, what do you choose?" I thought about my apartment on Europa Station, the mining job, the quiet isolation I'd wrapped around myself. I thought about the emptiness. Then I thought about Lincera, standing in my mining shuttle, covered in blood and burns, absolutely serious when she said we were bonded. I thought about fighting beside her, about the moment when everything crystallized into perfect clarity. This person needs help, and I can give it. I hadn't felt that clarity in 3 years. "I choose to stay," I said. "Why?" "Because I'm tired of running, because Lincera saw something in me worth protecting, and I want to live up to that. Because for the first time since Mars Colony, I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be." I met her eyes. "And because if I left, I'd spend the rest of my life wondering what I gave up." The Empress studied me for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. My daughter chose well, I think, whether she knew it or not. "You have passed the 3 trials. Tomorrow, we formalize the bond. Rest tonight, Marcus Webb. Tomorrow your old life ends and your new one begins." She left me sitting there, alone with my choice. The ceremony was held in the Grand Hall, a space so vast I couldn't see the ceiling. Thousands attended. Nobles, warriors, diplomats from allied worlds. Holographic projections carried the event across the Empire. I stood at the center, wearing ceremonial robes that probably cost more than my entire mining contract. Lincera stood across from me, radiant in traditional bonding attire that seemed woven from light itself. The Empress presided. "We gather to formalize what has already been written in blood," she began. "Marcus Webb, human of Earth, and Lincera Veltharn, princess of the Valtheri Imperium, stand bonded by the covenant of blood and honor. Does any present challenge this bond?" Silence. Then we proceed. She gestured, and an official approached carrying a crystalline blade. "Marcus Webb, do you accept the duties of this bond, to honor, protect, and stand beside Lincera Veltharn through all trials?" "I do." "Lincera Veltharn, do you accept the duties of this bond?" To honor, protect, and stand beside Marcus Webb through all trials? I do. Then seal the bond. We each took the blade and made a small cut on our palms. Our blood, hers dark, mine red, mixed as we clasped hands. Light erupted from the contact point. I gasped. Energy surged through me, alien and familiar at once. I felt Linsara's heartbeat matching mine. Felt her strength flowing through the bond. Felt her presence in my mind. Not thoughts, but emotions, intent, absolute certainty. It is done, the Empress declared. Let it be witnessed across the Empire. Marcus Webb is now Prince Consort, bound to the blood and honor of the Velthiri Imperium. The hall erupted in cheers and applause. Linsara squeezed my hand. Through the bond, I felt her relief, her joy, her fierce protectiveness. We did it, she whispered. We survived. That is the same thing for us. The celebration lasted hours. Food, music, speeches from officials I'd never met. I smiled and nodded and tried not to embarrass Linsara too badly. Finally, late into the night, we escaped to a balcony overlooking the stars. Tired? Linsara asked. Exhausted. You? I have never been more awake. She leaned against the railing. A week ago, I was hunting assassins alone. Now I have a husband. A human husband who fights with mining equipment and makes inappropriate jokes during council sessions. Having regrets? She turned to face me fully. No. You? I thought about everything that had happened. The chaos, the danger, the absolute insanity of the past week. No regrets. Lots of terror. But no regrets. Because tomorrow we begin your actual training. Combat, diplomacy, imperial history. You have much to learn. She smiled. A real smile. Not the careful political mask she wore in public. You know, for a random human I met on a dying planet, you are not terrible company. For an alien princess who claims we got married through ancient blood magic, you're pretty decent yourself. She laughed. The sound was beautiful. We are going to have a very strange life together, Marcus Webb. Good. Normal was overrated anyway. She took my hand, our bonded hands, still tingling with residual energy from the ceremony. Through the connection, I felt her contentment, her hope, her determination that this absurd situation would somehow work. And I realized I felt the same. Somewhere out there, the Corvaish were plotting revenge. Politicians were scheming. Assassins were planning their next attempt. The universe was vast and hostile and full of danger, but standing on that balcony with Linsara, watching alien stars wheel overhead, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I felt home. So, I said, what's next? Next, we face whatever comes. Together. Together, I agreed. Through the bond, our hearts beat as one, and I knew, whatever the universe threw at us, we would face it, standing side by side. Just like we had from the very beginning.